Okay, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Looks like we got a good group. We got 30 participants here today, so that's excellent. Um, so yeah, just going to share my screen here. Sorry, just be 1 second. Oops, and I don't need this. Okay, so welcome to the first JASI Annual Meeting. The way we got here is that we used to have what was called the JASI Advisory Group, and before that, it was JASI Committee, something like that. So until that was until late 2025, we had that advisory group. But we were noticing that the meetings that we were having were getting a little bit repetitive, and so in the interest of like shaking things up, we just decided to try a different alternative to get feedback from everybody. So we've chosen this annual meeting format. And this is the first annual meeting of this kind. So I want to thank again everybody for showing up today. It's everything. Thanks, Val. This is everything I just said about how we got here, and that this is the first meeting. And I thank everybody for showing up. So the agenda for today, I'm going to start by sharing some just high-level stats for the entire consortium, sort of like the annual survey stats and some more interesting stats for Jazzy Wide. And then I will be talking about the next stage in the transition from Web Reporter to Blue Cloud Analytics. Following that, Beth is going to take over and she's going to speak about workflows and how, if anybody is still using their default password, that they should be moving away from that. And then we don't have it in the agenda here. We have another quick message from Val about charge history. And then we're going to have a Q&A at the end that Jeff is going to discuss some of the questions that we got from that form that was in the invitation email. Any questions that were submitted through that form, we're going to discuss those, or any questions that anybody here might have using the Q&A feature. So, some general statistics. We have 113 current Jazzy member libraries, and there are 3 new libraries that are in the process of joining. Those 3 newer libraries are North Bay, who are launching, I think it was sometime mid-May, and Mississauga First Nation and West Nipissing, who are in the early stages of joining. We've got the number of active patrons. It's very similar to the annual survey one question. So I looked at that over 2 years. We are just shy of 85,000 active patrons. We have 2.3 million cataloged items in Jazzy. Uh, the value of the collection is 318 million, a little bit more than that. And it's probably more than that because there's a lot of items that have a value of 0 in the collection. So that this is just a count of what of the items that have a value assigned to them. And the number of circulations in 2025 across all of Jazzy is 1.2, almost 1.3 million. And then here I've got a few slides about like here are the most popular items across Jazzy. So these are the most popular audiobooks. These are the most popular fiction, The Gray Wolf, The Women, and The Housemaid. These are the most popular nonfiction. And then DVD and Blu-ray. This one I sort of had to do a little bit of an amalgamation, but these were the most popular series or movies across all of Jazzy. Um, I pulled all of these reports together in Blue Cloud Analytics. I'm not going to show those reports today, but just a little plug for that for my next topic that I'm going to be discussing, which is, again, moving on to the phase 2 of this transition from Web Reporter to Blue Cloud Analytics. You may remember that back in January of last year, so 2025, we sent out an email announcing that we're going to be moving from Blue Cloud Analytics, or sorry, from Web Reporter to Blue Cloud Analytics. There's a page here on our LibGuide. If you don't know how to get here, I can show that. Um, so if you start from allservice.ca, which is our website, you come here, whoops, here to JASI. And then if you scroll down a little bit to our documentation page right here, you click on that. And then this is our LibGuide. So this isn't new. It's where we're keeping some documentation. It's sort of like a documentation, sort of like tips. It's very short articles that we're keeping. We've got all the categories for all the different articles that we've written here. This is a work in progress, so we're always going to be updating this. You've probably seen a lot of this because we're now like if it's a common problem and you're asking a question about some problem that you're having that we have an article written for, instead of writing it all out in the email, we're just going to send you a link to these. So if you don't have the LibGuide bookmarked, I'd strongly suggest it. So here in the Blue Cloud Analytics section, this was where I had posted like the here's why we're moving from Web Reporter to Blue Cloud Analytics because of this outage that happened in September of 2023. So since that announcement last January to now, we've been in this phase one where we were contacting everybody, doing the demonstrations of how Blue Cloud Analytics works, how it's different from Web Reporter. Anybody who's had that demo, we were encouraging them to like look at your Web Reporter reports. If you use Web Reporter, not everybody uses Web Reporter, but look at your Web Reporter reports, look at the reports we set up for you in Blue Cloud Analytics and compare them just to make sure that they're accurate. So that has been going on since January of last year. And so in our project timeline, we had set ourselves the goal of like contacting everybody to set up a demo. We have reached out to everybody at least once. Um, so far, out of the 113 libraries, we have 58 libraries that have had their demonstration. So that's great. But we'd still like to see more of that happening. And also for anybody, so we're doing this demo. So I've taken pieces of that demo and I've made some recordings here. So it's just going to explain real basics like here's the introduction to Blue Cloud Analytics, the folder structure that we've decided upon, how to get around Blue Cloud Analytics. So like the navigation pieces of like how to get from one report to another or how to get from different pages. And then a specific type of report called a page review report. This page is going to get updated as we come up with more ideas for things to show. I also have an idea I'm probably going to have another section here for types of reports. So I'm going to talk about like the circulation reports. I'm going to talk about the patron reports, like things like that. Like I said, this is all a work in progress. So we're going to get there eventually. The plan is to continue to update that as much as we can. Um, So yeah, and I also want to make sure that everybody's aware that there's no requirement to use BCA if you're happy with your workflows reports. Those aren't going anywhere, and we don't intend to remove any of those reports. We might move a few over where it makes sense because the workflows reports are sort of a little more complicated to use, whereas if you just do it in Blue Cloud Analytics, but we can set that up in such a way that you just receive those, we'll set them up as a scheduled report. So you don't have to log into BCA to get those types of reports. The things I'm thinking about are like, say, inventory reports. The way we do inventory reports now in workflows, you have to run one for things that have never been inventoried and one for things that have been inventoried since the start of your inventory. It's getting a little in the weeds and a little complicated, but like that's much easier to do in BCA. BCA, you just have to run it once. You just pick anything that hasn't been inventoried by this date. So something like where it makes sense, we might move a few reports over, but that's very far and few between. Most reports are in workflows are fine to leave in workflows. So if you don't have a desire to see BCA reports, there's no requirement. I've got this little graphic here demonstrating where everybody should fit in to whether. So at the top row is for libraries that have not had their Blue Cloud Analytics demo. So that's the approximately 70 or so libraries that we've reached out to but didn't respond or we weren't able to schedule a demo. And at the bottom here, this is the 58 libraries that have had their demo. So if you've had your demo and you don't use Web Reporter, that's what this right column is. So if you've had your demo and you don't use Web Reporter, you're fine. You've got a good head start. We've showed you how it works. You may be using it, you may not be using it, but you're okay. There's no urgency here. If you have had your Blue Cloud Analytics demo, but you do use Web Reporter regularly, you should be already looking at your reports in Web Reporter and comparing them to Blue Cloud Analytics. The urgency here is that you only have 2 months left. Oh, yes, I guess I did. I skipped. I haven't said this part yet. So come June 1st. Whoops. Over. Sorry, I jumped ahead there. So today, part of we're announcing that come June 1st, we're going to be removing access to Web Reporter. This is just to simplify things, and we were never gonna because we don't want to have three different reporting platforms to support. And like I said, we've been in contact with most of the libraries that we believe are using Web Reporter because when we first started this project, or not before we started this project, when the outage of Web Reporter happened, when we started this project, we took the libraries that had the most tickets open with us about the outage. So that tells us, we don't know for sure for everybody, but like that tells us that if you are a regular user of Web Reporter, you likely contacted us during that month that Web Reporter was out. But we don't know that for a fact. We don't get to see usage stats on either Web Reporter or on workflows. So that's part of why we're talking about this today. So since on June 1st, the access to Web Reporter is going to be removed for everybody. So if you've had your demo and you use Web Reporter regularly, you've got 2 months left to compare your reports and make sure that you're happy with everything that we've given you with the initial reports or any reports that we've developed for you since you've had your demo. So very important for that comparison to continue while you still have access to Web Reporter. Now, up at the top here, if you don't use Web Reporter and you have not had your Blue Cloud Analytics demo, you fall into this yellow category. So you're more likely relying on workflows for your reports. You're not really using either of the external tools. You can contact us at any time, but since you're probably happy with the reports that you have, it's not super urgent, this June 1st switchover date. But however, if you use Web Reporter all the time and you have not had your demo, then you definitely fall in this red category, and this is the group that we need to speak to the most urgently. So come June 1st, you're going to not have your Web Reporter reports. That includes any scheduled reports that exist that come from Web Reporter. So it's important that if you are heavily relying on Web Reporter or relying on Web Reporter at all for anything, whether it's like your overdue reports or anything else, that you get in touch with us because you don't want to be caught on June 1st not having access to your reports and then having to learn BCA real quick on the fly. We've got this 2 month sort of warning period that it's best to take advantage of that now and get your demo and start using it now while you have the two to compare against. So if you think you fit into this red category, we encourage you to get a hold of us as soon as possible to schedule a demo and get you started, because before you have your demo, you don't get your credentials to get into Blue Cloud Analytics. So the sooner you can do that, the sooner you can start using Blue Cloud Analytics and get familiar with it before having to just figure it out on the fly because June 1st came and now you don't have Web Reporter anymore. There could be some people that fit into some of these categories that, for example, let's say if you're not sure if you've had your demo, you don't remember because we've been doing this for over a year now that we've been doing these demos. Or if somebody at your library had the demo and that they know they're no longer on staff, they've moved on. So somebody at your library hasn't had the demo, so somebody else needs to. In situations like that, it depends. Like you might fall into one of these more urgent categories. Sorry, these two urgent categories, right? Um, even if you've already had your demo, you can just contact us. We can always do the demo again, whether it's with somebody new or if you've already had it and you don't remember the details because we showed you the demo, you got your access, and then you just never went to look at it, for example. We can do a demo again. It's fine. It's no problem with that at all. And similarly, like I showed earlier on the LibGuide page, there's a page there with the videos that show you how to navigate and what the folder structure is and all that. So very important that you pay attention to this graphic, and especially if you're in this column here, if you're a regular web reporter user, your time is running out for using that. We feel like we've given a lot of warning about this. We told everybody about this in January of last year that it was coming and Web Reporter wasn't going to be around indefinitely. So we're just moving on to that next phase so that we can continue to make progress with this project.
Brian, sorry, before
Yep.
we move on, can you
Mhm.
just let everyone know about how long the demonstration is, just so that people have some idea of what they're committing themselves for? It might be
Yeah.
less than they expect.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The demo doesn't take very long. I usually book about an hour with the people that I'm doing, but most of the time we get it through it in about half an hour. The initial set of reports that we've given everybody that we decided like, oh yeah, this makes sense for most libraries, like, your circ reports and your counts, the patron counts and things like that. It's about maybe a dozen or so reports, so it doesn't take long to get through that, and then just to show like some basic navigation and that. So depending on the number of questions you might have for us, it's gone, I think one or two libraries have gone the full hour, but most of the time it's half an hour, 45 minutes. So it's not too bad. And we're always here for like for refresher training or anything like that. So if we do the demo and then in a month you're like, oh, I haven't had a chance to go look at it, we do like another quick session? We're always available to do um, impromptu, like let's do a quick Teams meeting and we can share our screen and show you how to do, even if it's just one or two things and the meeting takes 10 minutes. We're always available for that as well. But the demo itself, yeah, usually like half an hour to an hour is what you can expect. Before moving on to the next section with Beth, did anybody have any questions?
We don't have anything in the Q&A section. We'll maybe just
Okay.
give people a minute if they want
Yep.
to type something in. But
Great.
rest assured, if you haven't gotten your question in before we move on, we'll just add it to the list for the Q&A at the end.
Exactly right. Okay, hearing nothing. If we get any other questions, by the end, like Val said, we can add them to the end. So I will move on and hand things over to Beth for our next topic.
Thanks, Brian. You can go to the next slide there. Okay, so today I'm going to be speaking about the pins JASI libraries use in their Circ Tech and Super accounts. If you've attended your Blue Cloud Analytics training, you may have already heard this message, and many of you have already changed your pins. So if you have done that, thank you. You don't need to make any additional changes. Next slide. For those of you who still use your default PIN that was assigned to your library when you first joined JASI, we're asking that you update it no later than May 31st of this year. So this falls in line with that same date Brian had mentioned for the time limit you have to use your web reporter reports. We're asking that you change your default PIN by May 31st of this year. As part of maintaining a secure system, it's important that your default PINs are no longer in use. We're not asking libraries to rotate their PINs on a regular basis, only to change them from your default to something unique to your library. Your PIN can be a single word or a combination of a word and numbers. Next slide, thanks. The simplest way to change your default PIN is to contact us at JASI support at olservice.ca or by giving us a call. We can log in and update your default PIN for your SuperTech and Circ accounts. But if you prefer to make some of those changes yourself, you can do so with your Super account using the Modify User Wizard, the same way that you would do so with changing a patron's PIN. The only part of this is that you'll be unable to change your Super account login. You'll only be able to change your Tech and Circ account. Any changes to your Super account PIN must be completed by JASI support. So here on our LibGuide, Brian has showed we have a page here, and that's in our Workflows General page on how to change your PIN. And it's a step-by-step instruction guide that has a screenshot there on how you could change the PIN for your Tech and your Circ accounts. And then just at the bottom, it does say that you'll need to contact us to change your Super account. So as a reminder, we ask that this change be completed no later than May 31st of this year. And our goal is to simply help libraries move away from using their default PINs while keeping the process as straightforward and as easy as possible. That's it from me. If anyone has any
Great.
questions about that, feel free to use the Q&A. If not, I'll pass it over to Val.
Hi, everybody. If there's anyone out there who hasn't come across me yet, I'm the resource sharing manager with OLS, and I've been here since September of 2024. So one of the areas I oversee is JASI. I also deal with interlibrary loan and collective purchasing and pools. Um, Obviously, I'm here with my JASI hat on. So I'm just going to talk really briefly about charge history and some changes we're going to be making. So while working with CERSI technical staff for onboarding some new libraries to JASI recently, the volume of charge history that we keep was noted. CERSI staff have suggested that the best practice is to purge charge history after a set number of years, primarily to keep other reports running efficiently. So if there's less data to sift through, the software can run more quickly. While we haven't had any complaints from JASI member libraries about report speeds, we are going to start the process of purging the oldest of our charge history from JASI. So at this time, we're going to purge anything more than 10 years old, and we'll set reports to run automatically every year to maintain those 10 years. This is a longer retention period than is typical, but we do understand this might feel like a big change for some libraries and patrons. There is an option if your library would like to retain either more or fewer years of charge history. You can contact JASI support over the email, and we will set the retention period for your library's report appropriately. We haven't set an exact date for this yet, but we will send out this information over the listserv and let you know when we have chosen a date to get rolling on removing the older charge history. That's it for me on charge history. Short and sweet.
That's great. Thanks, Val. I'll give a moment in case anybody has any questions about that change. And if not, we can move on to Jeff, who's covering some Q&As that we got. So they'll fall into the Q&A section if you're still typing.
Okay, so I'd like to thank the few libraries that did send in some questions ahead of time. So we received 3 questions that I'll deal with now, but if anybody has further questions, we can add them at the end. Um, so first question is, are text reminders available? So short answer, yes. We do not have that enabled yet. We had investigated this a few years back. And the way it works within the system is it would be one batch of text messages basically that we would purchase. So say 10,000, and then that would be a pool of messages that could go out to all the libraries. There's no way for us to set which libraries get, like we couldn't allocate each library gets 1,000 messages or anything like that. So the problem is that we can't limit the amount each library uses. So a larger library would obviously use more text reminders. So the problem is to come up with a way to divvy up how each library would pay for that. Um, yeah, so I don't know if Val, if you had anything that you wanted to add to that.
Sure, yeah. So we have started to think about options or possibilities for some of these features or services that are available to JASI members. And really, Cersei lets us know whether it's something that it's an individual library can subscribe to, or if it's something that impacts all of the libraries in the consortium. Um, and then there's the difficulty of it's a very large consortium, as we heard from Brian. We're almost at 116 members. We will be later this year. So how do we decide if something, if a member library wants something, a service or a feature, and not all the libraries do, or not all the libraries are interested, or some of them are? At what point do we make the decision that yes, we're going to go for this or not? And then how are the costs divided up? So to date, I don't have any specific examples, but there are sometimes decisions that OLS makes that are like, well, we need this feature, so we're going to add it, because of modernization or whatever other kinds of changes. So we're in the process of talking amongst ourselves at OLS, including senior management, about how we can approach these things so that we're keeping the costs of JASI down, but also allowing libraries to modernize, for example, with text messages, text message reminders. So we don't actually have any answers on that yet, but it is a topic of discussion, and we'll certainly communicate out and look for input as appropriate from JASI members when we bring that conversation a little further. So at this point, I think Jeff said this, the text messages is something that would have to be consortium wide. It doesn't mean you'd have to participate in it, but you would have access to it. So, further complications, who pays for what, if we move forward with something like that. So it's, kind of a non-answer answer, I'm afraid.
Okay, so thanks, Val. So the second question was, can we search books by author's background? For example, are they Canadian, British, Indigenous, etc.? Yes, as long as that information is in the MARC record, it would be searchable. The library didn't specify whether they were referring to searches within workflows by staff or through the OPAC by patrons. Um, both can be arranged. So if you did a general search within workflows, it should pick up that information. Um, and in the OPAC, if that field is not set to be searchable or displayed currently, we can certainly add it. So just as an example, I looked into this a little bit. So the 370 field, subfield A, you could indicate the place of birth of the author. Subfield C would be an associated place or country of the author, and subfield E would be the author's current place of residence. Also, the 545 field, I don't have a subfield for that, but that could also be a field used for that. So if you do want that to be searchable, we can definitely go into the OPAC if that's where you're interested in having that be searchable. We can add that as a searchable field within your OPAC. And the final question is a long one. So if a patron only uses their library card for Libby, how do they get counted as an active card holder in the last 2 years for the annual survey since they don't check out since they don't check books out in JASI? If I remember correctly, they don't get counted. Sorry, I got to scroll over. How can we rectify this? We have many patrons who only use Libby, and I want them counted in our active card holders as they are active. Is there something we can do in JASI to ensure they are counted? And I'm not able to attend the meeting. Okay, so we'll send a follow-up answer to that library after. But so if a patron does use Libby, they are counted as active. It does trigger that flag within workflow, so they do become an active patron as soon as they log in. we can't count checkouts that they do. Um, but they do get flagged as an active patron. So short answer there. So I don't see any other questions coming in. If anybody else has any questions, I guess you could throw them in the chat at this point.
There's two
There's
questions in
two. Yeah.
the
Oh, okay.
Q&A. So the first one is, will the removal of old charge history impact total number of circ per item?
I don't think we've had this discussion yet. Jeff or Beth, you were in the
Okay.
conversation with North Bay. I don't know if anything about this was mentioned or if we need to go back to Cersei and check on how this is handled in the reporting.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is a good question, and we're kind of at the beginning stages
Hmm.
of making this change. So yeah, we definitely need to go back to Cersei Dynex and just verify that. Okay, our next question in the Q&A, can you send out the subfields so we can add them when cataloging? So I assume
So
this is the subfields
Brian? Yeah.
um, Jeff, you
Oh,
had
no,
been
that was
is
mentioning.
that
Jeff.
the
Yeah,
That's
is
right.
sorry,
that
when
Yep,
for the
that was the
question.
first question. Yep,
Yep,
sorry, my apologies.
or the second one there for the author's background?
right. So this video
Yeah.
is being recorded, so you will be able to access it on our LibGuide, but I'm sure that when we send our follow-up email, or Jeff can also reach out with those exact subfields that you'd mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have in the lib guide, there's gonna be a new page where this recording is gonna be posted. And then I'm gonna have a summary of like at the topics that were discussed, and I'm gonna put every question and the answer. So in that answer, I can post those when Jeff gives me those subfields, I can put those there.
A few more questions are coming in. Um, we have, are we able to set up e-cards?
I'm not sure what e-cards are.
It's electronic only card, so they don't have a physical card.
Oh, patron cards. Okay.
Hmm.
I see.
Not like a electronic happy birthday card through JASI. I don't
This
know if you
I
guys do that here.
No, I can answer this. We did look into this, and it's similar to the text reminder things. It would be one pool. So we did looked into this during COVID because a lot of libraries were interested in having patrons able to register from home. Um, so I'm assuming that's what this is, kind of self-registration. Um, if they were self-registering, again, it would be one pool of patron IDs, which doesn't work within our system because each library has their own unique prefix for their patron IDs. So that was the big roadblock with setting up self-registration in that regard. Um, but I'm not sure if e-cards is a separate thing. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think that's what's being asked. If not, that question came from Stephanie. Maybe you can clarify if that's not what you were asking, but
Sure. Yeah.
okay, our next question. We only keep our charge history for 2 years and it doesn't change the item's overall circ numbers when deleted. You still see 15 checkouts, just not the names associated with those checkouts. Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to look at this as that first question came in from Eva. So if correct me if I'm wrong, Jessica, that's great information. I was going to ask you about this actually, so you've saved me an email. But yeah, so they get rid of their charge history. So there's a field in the item that says total checkouts or lifetime checkouts or something like that. So it sounds like that. Yeah, there we go. So that count doesn't change if the charge history is cleared, but like she said, you can't see the information about those transactions anymore. So you can't see which patron or what date or anything like that. It just keeps that total there. That's great. Thanks, Jessica.
Great. And Stephanie added to her question that we had just answered about e-cards that she was
Okay.
talking about online registrations, which would be great for seasonal residents. So I think that fits that same answer.
Yeah.
Okay. This one came in anonymous. We haven't used Web Reporter, but was it the most used reports available that would be better than workflows?
Um,
I th
I think maybe what are
one of
the
the
yeah.
most common reports. So in the templates that we've set up for libraries, I think there's 5 folders. We've got the overdue report in one folder. We've got bills charged and collected. Um, so that's another category of reports. Those two basically just have one report in them right now for the templates that we send out. There's circulation reports, which when we first rolled this out, we were having some trouble with, but we've since figured that out. For most libraries, those are corrected. I've just got like about 10 libraries that the circ reports are still not working in Blue Cloud Analytics. They're not matching up against the workflows reports. And there's a whole, I could go on about that, but not in this meeting about like, wow, that's complicated. But I've mostly matched those up, and I'm working on cleaning those up. So there's circulation, there's patron reports, and then item or catalog reports. So the patrons and item, those are kind of what you think of you can list all your items or list them in a certain category, or you can do things like show me all the items that haven't circulated in a certain number of years or things like that. Um, we've kept the initial templates to be very basic because we're doing we up until now we've been doing this initial rollout. Some libraries have more specific reports that they've asked for, and we've, like as we're learning the system too, because this is new for us, not brand new for us, but like a lot of the functionality we're still learning about, right? So I haven't spoken about it in my section because we've talked about it before. The benefit of the Blue Cloud Analytics reports is that they're more visual, they're more clean. The workflows reports, as I'm sure everybody's aware, they're just text, and as soon as you start getting 5 or 6 columns in them, they just start looping over and they just look ugly, right? Like they're very functional, they're great because the advantage of them is that it's very easy for you as libraries to go in and just say, okay, like I can filter out, like you have the option to edit those reports. So you can go in and you can edit and you can change and make your own templates. In Blue Cloud Analytics, you won't have that freedom. You won't have creator accounts. You'll only have view accounts. There, and there's some of this is in the demo and in the videos, but there are controls in there that will let you do filters, but those filters are not saved. So it's just while you're on that website and you run the report, you can do sorts and you can do all kinds of filtering, or there's a thing called page by report. So each page of a report would have a different item type or patron type, let's say. So you'll have those controls and then you can customize them that way and then export to Excel, and it'll export in the format, the last filters or whatever that you applied, but you can't save any changes that you've done to that report. Anything that needs to be changed permanently needs to come through a request to JASI support. Um, so yeah, that's the little bit of the benefit and the why of using Blue Cloud Analytics. Yeah.
There's another question here. Can you not set circ rules for a membership that only lets them use e-resources? Because you can just make a form online and manually register patrons instead of having them register in workflows directly.
Yeah, so I think this ties into
I think that's
the
a hot
previous
tip from
question.
someone.
Yeah,
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 to the
yeah.
e
So
cards.
yes, you can block membership from checking out any specific item types. So you could limit them to just having access to the e-resources if you want. And you could, I mean, at your choice, you could set up an online form on your website or just tell patrons to call the library if they want to register that way. Um, I'm always hesitant to do the online form thing just because you may get a lot of fake submissions, which is hard to control. But yeah, for sure. Just let us know if you want to set up a patron type like that with circ rolls.
Yeah, and as with all anywhere that you would be setting up an electronic card or self-registration, it's up to each library of, do you require them to come in and show you some ID at some point? Or, how long is the card valid for, so that you, as Jeff said, you don't have 70 fake accounts being used by one person so they can place 70 holds on the newest bestseller in Overdrive. Um, that's all up to individual library policy of how you want to handle those things. Uh, just the same as your requirements for ID for setting up an actual physical card. Some libraries require more than others. Some have stricter controls over those things. So I think that's just an option that someone shared as a way to address that.
Yep, and that same a comment from that same library. We haven't had any fake submissions. Only issue has been non-residents trying to get a free membership, but we make them show ID before they can pick up a physical card or check out physical materials. And they set theirs up on their website to also collect non-resident fees at the time of registration. Thanks for sharing. That's all that's in our Q&A right now. If anyone has any other questions, please pop your question into the Q&A and we can answer that for you.
In terms of speaking of circ rules, my children have gotten really into playing library at my house. And last night, my son was checking out materials based on vibes only, and I got to go into a very in-depth conversation about circulation rules and my experience working in JASI and the circ map. So that was really a fun moment for me.
How do you know one parent is a librarian? Their children
Well,
like to play library and get very involved in circ rules conversations.
exactly. I mean, it's either that or they're playing nurse because that's what my husband is. And you know what? I'd rather they play library, to be completely honest. So.
Do you want to hop into an FAQ or two to see if before any more questions come in?
Sure. So one question that we frequently get, or we thought that some of you may be interested in, is if an item doesn't have an image of the cover in the OPAC, is there a way for us to add one? Do either of you want to answer? Do you want me to answer?
Oh, yeah. So there's a couple ways, well, two ways. You can you can submit cover images. So we had sent out a link a while back. Well, no, we didn't send the link. We just said send us images. So you'd send your cover images. They have to be clean cover images, no barcodes on them, preferably just straight on cover shots. Um, and you could send them, and we upload those to Syndetics. That's the cover library that we use within the OPAC. Um, Alternately, for those covers, you'd need to have an ISBN or some other unique identifier that Syndetics could use to tie it to the record. Um, Another alternate way, so if you've got kits or something like that, lots of libraries lend out snowshoes and cameras and other audio video equipment and stuff like that. If you wanted to take a picture of that equipment, we can add an image that would show up in line in the mark information. So it wouldn't show where the normal cover image shows. It would show actually in with where the author and the title and the ISBN and that stuff shows. Nobody is using that currently. We did have two libraries that were using it, but they're not currently implementing that feature.
I'm sharing my screen. I've got the lib guide about what the process is for uploading covers. So it's got the steps here for you send in the request and what the requirements are for the image. It's got the information down here at the bottom. So as long as you send us that and it's clear to us which image goes to which item that you're requesting. If you're sending them in a batch, then we can easily do that for you. And they show up generally either same day or the next day. They're pretty quick about when they get approved or not.
Another FAQ. So how do we download or update workflows on a new computer?
Take that.
Sure.
Okay, so that is through our website. I should have just stayed sharing my screen.
You can keep it up for the next question too.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Okay, so sorry, it's being a little, there we go. So from oilservice.ca, if you go to the JASI section at the top here, so um, I just clicked up here to JASI, and we scroll down to client staff and apps. You click on here or on the Learn More button. This takes you to a login page. You would contact us for the credentials if you don't have them already. I'm not going to say them in this recording. But you log in with those credentials, and then there will be a link on the following page that will say if you want to download the Windows client or the Apple client, depending on what type of computer you're using. Once you click on that, it'll start a download, and then depending on your browser, it'll show up like which browser you're using, it'll show up in your downloads folder. The file that you download is an executable. You double click on that to run it. There's no configuration to do during the install. You just click on yes, okay, next, accept, whatever those buttons are, until that's done. And then once it's done and you go to log into workflows, you'll get this configuration screen, but all this will be blank. So the two fields you need to have are this olsn.cersei.dynix.net and port 5100. These two need to be filled out exactly like this. That connects you to our server, and then you hit OK, and then you input your credentials as normal. Why did I hit stop share?
Brian, if you
Right.
want to show on our LibGuide how we do specified path not found errors.
Got it.
So this is a question some of you reach out about when you're trying to run your reports and workflows, and you receive an error that the specified path isn't found when you're trying to open those reports after running them. So we do have a
Mhm.
page on our LibGuide.
Yeah, so this came about because of a change that Windows made several months back now. That so the default app that would open up text reports was set to Notepad. Nope, WordPad. Sorry. WordPad. WordPad was a default Windows application that just came with every installation of Windows. In a recent update, last few months, they've removed WordPad from Windows. So now the reason you're seeing specified path not found is because you've got this path, and this takes you to the executable to launch WordPad, and now WordPad doesn't exist. So that's why you're saying you're getting this error message of specified path not found. The path to that executable no longer exists. It can't find the file. So there's a guide here on how to do it, and there's a little video. But what basically all you're trying to do is you go find either your executable for Word or Notepad or any other application that can handle text to open up the report, and then you set this first field here, this application to view reports. You set that you would click on this gadget here at the end, this little button here at the end there. You click on that and it lets you browse your computer, and then you browse to the location of the executable for that application. If it's Word, it's going to be somewhere in Microsoft Office, I should say. You find that, and it's different with every computer. It depends on the version of Windows or Mac that you're using. It depends on the version of Office that you have. So there's no like one, we can't like, like it might not be even be on your C drive. Depends on your configuration of your computers. So we can't just say, oh, just set it to this. It's going to vary by computer. So you have to browse around a little bit and find. And I've got some tips on how to do that in the video. Um, um, but yeah, so that's why if you're trying to open up a report and you get the specified path not found, there's a guide here on how to fix that. So from the libguide home, that's under workflows reports and then specified path not found. And this will walk you through those steps there.
Great. Another question has come into our Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
So this one says, on our web catalog, the search feature searches everything in the OPAC, and patrons have to select specifically our library from a drop-down that most people don't see until we tell them. Is there a way to change it to default only search our library resources?
Yeah, that sounds like a misconfiguration, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would say that's I'll make a note of that and we will look into what's going on with
Which
your OPEC.
which library is that? I can't remember offhand
It's
where Savannah's from.
Is it Desperanto? Savannah, if you want to send yeah.
Yeah, it
Okay.
does. Okay.
Thank you.
good memory.
Look at me.
Yeah, we'll open up a ticket for you for that. Thanks for letting us know about that.
Oh yeah, something's off there. But
hmm
Okay,
one more has popped up.
great.
We, Perry Township Public Library, have the same issue. Oh, there you go. Thanks, Leah. I'll add you to that ticket, Perry Township, with the OPAC search.
mhm.
If anyone else notices that, let us know at
Yeah,
JASI Support.
please let us know right away. On that note, don't ever hesitate to contact us if you're noticing anything odd about anything going on with your library, or if it's, oh, I wish it worked like this. Reach out and ask us because maybe it does, and maybe, maybe it is something that we can
Yeah,
do for you. There's no harm in asking. If it's something that we can't do, we'll just say no. But we would hate to hear about that you're having, like, for example, this issue. I'm reluctant to ask how long that's been going on for, because the answer's probably not good.
yeah. I
But we don't know, right? So if you don't tell us, we don't know something's wrong.
Yeah, I did pull up Perry Township's OPAC here.
Mhm.
Theirs is set up okay. It does default to an everything search, but everything in this case just means it's going to search your library and it's going to search Overdrive because you do have the Overdrive search set up. Um, and that's just a configuration thing, is that we have to have that set to everything in the back end. The patron will have to manually pick either a library search or just Overdrive in that case. But definitely Deseronto, something's wrong there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we just about filled out the hour there. So that's great. I want to thank everybody for joining us today and getting some good information and participating in the Q&A. That's great. We love hearing from everybody.